What role did you have before you joined Asda?
I was sales and marketing at Pedigree, Pet Foods.
So as Archie comes along, what made this so compelling a proposition? He was a failing business.
Well, I think that was the thing. A bit of it was, you know, I'd been I was only about 36 at the time, 35, I can't remember, 38 probably, and I kept thinking, am I going to be here for the rest of my life? And what am I really going to do if I'm here for the rest of my, you know, and then, you know, sometimes something comes along which is attractive for completely the wrong reasons, because everybody else had run a mile. I mean, we were very lucky. It was that bad that we couldn't recruit anybody from retail. And that was the best thing that happened to us, because then I had to go to Mars and get Richard Baker and Justin and all these others. But I knew that business. I mean, the thing was, I knew that business and felt that there was a good business in there, just waiting to come out. And so,
but it was a big risk.
It was a huge risk. And I felt terrible about it for about for 3 months I thought, this is going to be a disaster. Because actually, what happens is, you know, when everything's going wrong, it just gets worse. So Archie and I sort of roll up, knowing already we're going to break the banking covenants and everything else, which is bad enough. And then we realise the business is in much worse shape than we thought it was going to be. And then, because one of the first things we do is say, well, I'm sorry, we're just going to have a pay freeze for everybody, we have to make a number of redundancies, we're threatened with a strike. And that was also a big turning point, because in Mars there are no unions, and because you don't need them, they were just so well looked after. And you know, to go from an environment where you would never think about that to, and part of the reason there was going to be a strike is that, you know, there was nobody believed in the business, and nobody felt they were looked after in any way, shape or form. And that too was a big thing for us, because, you know, when we started out we had 96% membership, union membership, and when we sold it to Walmart we had 6.
Wow.
And it was nothing that we're anti-union. I'm not at all, actually. Although I've had a number of battles with them over the years. But because the unions, you know, their role is to, you know, if my dad was actually a union convener at the co-op, and he, you know, he would fight the battles for when people were, what I describe as real people, were not being treated properly.
So if you look at that move from 96% to 6, what are the 2 or 3 things you think you presided over?
Well, I mean, we had this thing about, you know, one of our values was we're all colleagues, one team, and we work with people. So it didn't matter, you know. And I say to everybody, the most important people in our business are the checkout operators. They're the most important people. So let's do everything that makes them the most important people, and then we're all less important the further up the organisation. So we managed to get tremendous buy-in off the back of that. You know, we gave everybody in the business shares in the company, which is really important. You know, so it wasn't just the directors. Then we were one of the first people really who ever gave shares to everybody in the company, and that everybody shared in the success. So that's sort of part of that. And then we just became very good at communicating with people. You know, we were very, very close to people. We'd have a very good feel for what was going on in the organisation. You know, I'd spend quite a lot of time in the stores. Every month I'd go and work in a store on the checkouts. And I got this from James, actually. James, I worked with James for Dyson, and in James's book, one of the things that got me straight away, he said, everybody who joins Dyson on the first day, the first thing they do is make a Dyson. So, you know, you're in the vacuum cleaner business. I thought, that's a very smart thing to do. And because it didn't matter what job you did, you made your Dyson, and then you went and did your job. So you always knew, you know, this selling is a universal responsibility. So this is a really good idea. So what's our equivalent of this? It's the checkout. So everybody who joined the company had to go and work on the checkout. And of course, you know, you look at it, working on checkout is a really skillful job. And the difference in terms of productivity, in terms of scan speeds, is enormous. And you know, our girls, which because they were larger girls, our girls probably when they started out were scanning at, I don't know, 14, 15 items per minute. They scan now at 25, 26. So the productivity is immense. And it's not just the productivity, it gets people through the tills. You know, that's the till point. But who are the best people to tell you what is the best way to do it? They are. So they'd say, put that button over there, Alan, or, you know, if we just had that screen like that, that would be really good. And it's this, you know, learn from the operator. So a lot of the stuff came up the organisation, and you know, I think that was a big part of the.
So if you look back at your time, you got to the top of the organisation at Asda. What did marketing bring to you? What insights did that give you around leadership?
Well, it's, you know, like all those businesses, they are, you know, they're customer focused. I mean, you know, what marketing is all about is satisfying the customer. That's all it's about. Is, you know, how do I satisfy the customer better than my competition? That's it. And so, you know, that's what those retail businesses do. That's you know, they're, you know, we all sell food. We can all put buildings up. We can all get great sites. So why come here versus there? And it's all in the offer, and it's all in the service, and there's a big piece of convenience. You know, location is really important, but most locations now have 2 or 3 players within half a mile of each other. So, you know, that marketing, you know, this marketing discipline brings you about customer.
So why then, in your opinion?
So, for example, all of the board meetings at Asda, group board or the sort of management board, all started with the customer data from the previous month. It didn't start with the minutes. It didn't start with, here's the report from the audit committee. It didn't start with the loads of presentations from everybody who's sort of coming along. It didn't start with the P&L. It started with that. And that, you know, it sounds trite the way it's said, but fundamentally, that's, if you do that, then everybody knows what's important. That everything else is all...
So then, riddle me re. We've got a number of marketing professionals in the audience. Not many have reached where you've reached, but you make it seem integral to the success of an organisation.
It is.
So where's the barrier to entry?
Well, I honestly don't know. I don't think there is one. I think that there's one in a general sense. You know, Terry came out of it, I guess, and I don't know. I mean, I think just being a marketeer isn't enough. You know, people think sometimes it's difficult to be with people. But it's not. I mean, I always find it's very interesting. I used to say to everybody, if you see people in a pub drinking with their friends, and then you see them in the business, they're like completely different people. So people can sit around and have a chat with a few beers, and then they go in the company, and because they have to go and do it with slides and all that, it's like a completely different person. And I think that, you know, I've always been the same. I do exactly, you know, I do exactly the same way. So because the thing about communication is it's an unnatural act. It's not something that people do naturally in business. And it's become even more unnatural because it's all become about presentations, videos, tweets, Twitter, email. Oh, there's all this stuff. When actually the best way to communicate is just sit down as we are and have a chat because they get it. And I think just it is simple if you want to keep it simple. But it seems to be which is why I hate all the management talk. It just confuses everybody. And so just be natural. And particularly just be natural when you're talking to customers, because they talk like that, and when you're talking to the people in the organisation who do all the work, which largely isn't us. You know? You're
chairman of a number of businesses. You stand for clarity of communication, you stand for the customer, you stand for people. That's very clear, we've understood that. As chairman, non-executive chairman, do you get the chance to go into the organisation, talk to people, meet customers, or are you in danger of undermining your chief executive and those people underneath you?
Well, you are, but I do, and because I don't. I mean, this non-executive thing is you have to be very careful with. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. You know, I always think about business about execution. Execution is done by executives. That the two things are very linked. And the non-execs are about non-execution. But that doesn't mean they're not about the business. So, you know, I'm by my nature, I can't function particularly. I'm useless to anybody if I can't be in the organisation, talk to the people, talk to the customers, and help people think about what we should be doing better or the other way around. And that's the great thing about the relationship I have with my CEOs is they know that, but they know I'd never undermine them. And that, you know, they trust me in the same way I trust them, that I go and talk to people, the first people I feed back to is them. But they also give me the ability to, if I need to, change something while I'm there, just do it. You know, we're a team, I know it's a sound, you know, we're a unit. And you can't be a unit and be detached. And that's based on, you know, the respect that we have for each other.
a lot of our audience here are coming through the marketing industry, and they're ambitious, they're aspirational, they want to fulfill their potential as far as what tips would you give them about the C-suite, the executive suite, the board, the chief executive's role? What are the 2 or 3 things they should be focusing on now that may well help them on their journey?
So never forget the customer, but don't complicate it. We're customers in things that we're not attached to, and the way we think about things isn't in a very complex way when we're buying something. So never, the customer thing, never ever forget, but don't overcomplicate it. That's the thing. The second thing is that there is the data will tell you 70% of what you need to know, but intuition is really important in the mix. It's what you do with the data and how you add a bit of sizzle to it. Where's the sizzle you add? I think that really becomes important. And then the third thing is don't talk in babble. Don't talk in exec babble, management babble, or general babble. And because most people in the organisation haven't got a clue what anybody's talking about. And then they think you're really complicated and that therefore you would be useless in anything apart from what you're doing now. So best leave them where they are, generally.
We have been so privileged. Please, please, please join me in giving Allan a fantastic round of applause, please.